Hello everybody, this is Tip Top MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are going to be looking at some leaks for Magic the Gathering. So if you're someone who only wants to hear the official news when it's supposed to come out, I recommend clicking off. I don't always cover leaks, but this one was a pretty big leak, and it happened a couple days ago. I've actually been going back and forth on whether I should cover it, but then we kind of got another leak on top of that. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about some card leaks for Commander Legends, and that's what we're going to do first. And then after that, we're going to talk briefly about the set leak that kind of happened. And so we're going to talk about all that. Remember, all of these are leaks, so take them with a grain of salt. I also don't endorse people to leak or to even watch this video. I just feel like it's my responsibility to make sure everyone is informed, especially because some of these cards, for instance, have value. And if something gets leaked, then, a card you're holding just loses all of its value way earlier than it should. That could massively affect things. But also, it is just really important for everyone to stay up to date in such a complex game. So why don't we jump right into this? So the leaks took place in the form of an eBay listing, and it was a German eBay listing. And whether I want to talk a little bit about whether I think these are real. I think they're gonna end up being real. The thing is, it's a little weird on how many of this planeswalker this person has. I mean, it looks like they're mythics, and they have this many borderless mythics, so they must have opened a ton, which means this must be either a huge seller, which I don't think would risk, leaking things early unless it was an accident, but, or it's, not real, or I'm not sure. It's just having this many mythic borderless cards is a bit, interesting, so it must mean that it's someone bigger if it is real. But you'll also notice we have a card right here. We have a Planeswalker. This is Tavish Stats. I'm sure that'll be different by the final version, but he has a +2 that says create 2 black 0/1 Thrall tokens. So you're just getting some fodder to sacrifice, which is probably what he's going to want to do. Hey, look, you can pay one, or not pay one, sorry, you can add 1 loyalty to him and sacrifice a creature or another Planeswalker to draw 2 cards. You draw an extra card if that creature was a commander. So he does have partner, if we jump down to the very bottom, so he can sacrifice his his other partner if they're even a planeswalker, for instance. So that's kind of interesting. And then -10, gain control of all commanders in play and put all commanders from all command zones into play under your control. That's a really interesting effect that can really only happen in a commander product, obviously. So what's going to happen is, unless the commander is in exile, in the graveyard, phased out, there are a number of things, you basically just get everyone's commander, and it does not say until end of turn. So yeah, that's a pretty good card. Now, moving back, he does start with 4 loyalty. You can take him up 2 at a time, so he's going to come up with 4. If you have, say, doubling season on the battlefield, which is going to double his counters, he's going to come out with 8, and then you'll +2 him, he'll be at 10. So then the next, actually, you'll plus technically 4 him, he'll be at 12, and then they have a turn to kill him, and if you -10, you gain control of their commanders. Now, is that an instant win the game kind of ult? No, but it will massively set back your opponents. I mean, if his ult was remove your opponent's commanders from the game, whether they're in command zone or on the battlefield for even 2 or 3 turns, that can be really good, but you're actually gaining control of those, so I think it can be interesting. So it changes based on every game, and I think it'd be fun to build around. Next we have Jessica. So this is Jessica. She's a 3-cost 0 loyalty planeswalker, and she comes into play with a loyalty counter for each time a commander was cast by you from the command zone. So, by the way, she has partner as well. If this was your first spell you'd cast, you'd get a 1 loyalty 3-cost planeswalker. But if you cast, say, your other commander first, and then she comes in with 2 loyalty, maybe she dies, you cast her for 3, now she's coming in with 3 loyalty. So with partner, she works a lot better. But what does she do? Well, you can pay 0 and choose a creature. If that creature would deal damage to an opponent until your next turn, it deals 3 times the damage instead. So you'll actually notice that's not a plus ability. She cannot go up in plus. She can only go down or stay the same. But what she's going to do is she's going to let you make one of your creatures do a ton more damage, and that's really interesting. but it's only dealing extra damage to an opponent. It also doesn't say a creature you control, so you can kind of maybe manipulate this a little bit. It is until your next turn, so you can give it to your opponents if you want to team up with them to take someone out. So I think it definitely has value. Also, for 3 mana, the ability to just essentially triple damage is pretty good when hitting an opponent, but yeah. So then -X, Jessica deals X damage up to 3 targets. It doesn't sound that great, but if you are paying 3 mana and this is the first time you cast your commander, you can have her come down with 1 loyalty, -1 her, she's dealing 3 damage, but the issue arises when she's not in the command zone. Yes, you may throw her into a deck that wants to cast their commander a ton, but the thing about it is that this could theoretically be a dead card. It could literally hit the battlefield and die instantly. So that is something to be wary. I don't really think this is going to see much play outside of the command zone, and even then, I don't know how powerful it really is. Next, we have this giant thing of cards, and I'm not really going to break these down because they're blurry and in German, and so it's very hard, but you'll notice at the end, there was someone who managed to go through all these cards, and obviously I can point some out. Tymna the Weaver, Maelstrom Wanderer, Nekusar, all of that. I can, like, point them out, Boris Charm, but someone was kind enough to... here are just all the other leaks, to make this giant list, and you can't read it, and, you know, at the top, there are all the new cards translated, which is amazing, and at the bottom, we have all the reprints, so why don't we go through the reprints? Now, I'm not going to break down the price of the reprints or what each individual card does because, well, this isn't the spoiler video. I don't want to do all that and then have these be fake leaks, and then also that makes it awkward in the future when I cover the actual spoilers. It's like, well, I already talked about the cards, so some people have already heard my opinion, so we're just going to go through so that you can be informed as to what is being reprinted, supposedly. So we have Boros Charm, Cage of Hands, Fertilid, Fleshbag Marauder. Now, okay, one thing I do want to mention. Some of these are being downshifted or upshifted in rarity. I think all of them are being downshifted, and not all of them, as I just mean if something has happened to the rarity, it has only gone down from everything I've seen. Some of these are available in extended art, like Fleshbag Marauder, and some of these are available in the showcase frame. One example of that is, and these are just commons and uncommons, Maelstrom Wanderer. I believe they said every legendary in the set is going to be a partner, or like they're all going to be like new, and except for certain old commanders that are going to be reprinted in etched foil. And this is an example where Maelstrom Wanderer is one of the like classic ones that are going to show up in packs only in etched foil in the showcase frame. So keep that in mind. You will not be able to get like the normal version of this card, but I think the new version actually looks really awesome. We have Makeshift Munitions, Nekusar, another one who is going to be etched foil. Palace Sentinels, which I just want to do. I do want to break this down because this tells a lot about Commander Legends. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. And they said, when announcing Commander Legends, that it is not Modern Horizons in the way that it's not just every mechanic. Modern Horizons did not have a central mechanic or mechanics. It was, hey, you want flashback on this card? Sure, this one random card has flashback. This one has Storm. This one has Echo. This one, you know, whatever. They said there were going to be 3 or 4 mechanics, and I believe Monarch is going to be one of them. First off, it works really well in Commander, and second, I really don't see them throwing Monarch on a random card because I would consider that to be a mechanic. And you'll also see there are other cards that care about it coming up as well. We have Reliquary Tower. They're going to be available in extended art, which should be cool. Return to Dust, Sailor of Means, Soul's Fire, Soul's Might. So we may see a cycle there. Soul's Might has only been printed once. Kind of interesting. Spark-Tongue Dragon, Spectral Searchlight, Staff of Domination has only been reprinted once, and it was reprinted as an invention, so it'll be nice to get more copies of these. Supreme Will, 3 Visits. Now this one I am going to put a little more emphasis on. This has been a card people have been asking for a reprint for a very long time. It is currently a common sitting at $150. And yeah, so it's apparently getting reprinted, which will be really awesome. It's being upshifted to uncommon, and you know, $150 card being printed in uncommon will probably crash the price of it down, so keep that in mind. Next, we have Tymna the Weaver, and this actually really hit me. You know, this one is one of the etched foils. What if they do all the old partners? And then if you pull one of them, you can partner them with one of the monocolored commanders, and now you got 3 color decks. So I would not be surprised if we get all of the old 2-color partners, or at least, you know, maybe a couple more than just Tymna. Universal Solvent, Vow of Wildness, Zedru the Great-Hearted, again another Edged Foil one, and that's all the reprints that were at least able to be seen in the photos. Next, let's go into new cards. So these were the two commanders we talked about earlier. The two planeswalkers. I'm not really going to talk about it, but yeah, they can be your commander. They're partners. They're kind of cool. Next, we have some new ones. We have Liesa of Flight Penumbra. First ability lets you pay commander tax with 2 life instead of 2 mana for each cast. Not sure about English templating on this one. Yeah, I don't know how I'd word that either, but that's an interesting concept. Now, it's essentially saying for her, just for her ability, she's always going to cost 2 white, white, black, but then if she dies, she's now going to cost 2 white, white, black, and 2 life, and then 4 life, but she helps you. First off, she's a 5/5 flying lifelinker, and whenever a player casts a spell, you gain 2 life. So this is going to be one of the non-partner commanders, which is kind of interesting. You know, having it be a partner may have let it be a little too powerful with being able to gain enough life and always having this one out. However, this would be one that would work really well with anything that cared about how many times you've cast your commander, which I guess maybe is why it's not a partner. For instance, the Jessica, is that her name? The red planeswalker we talked about earlier, she would love this commander because it can just always be recasted for 5. Next, we have Elvish Dread Prince. It's a 3 black creature zombie elf with Death Touch, and whenever it dies, non-elf creatures non-elf creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn. So it's a little board wipe on a creature. This is, by the way, not a commander. And then it has this ability called Encore. So Encore, 5 black. Exile it from your graveyard. Non-elf creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So Encore is a new ability, and they, I believe, hinted that there was going to be one new ability in Commander Legends, and it looks like it is going to be Encore, which seems like it'll be whenever something dies, it doesn't affect, and then you can Encore for a lot more, and essentially just do that effect again, which I think is interesting. It's similar to things we've gotten in the past, but it is only 2-time use. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Escape, but yeah. Next we have Tormod the Grave Robber. So it's legendary creature zombie wizard. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token with partner. So you mill yourself 50, and then you have to exile them individually, which does kind of stink. If you were to instance Bajuka Bog or get Bajuka Bogged, it would only create 1 black zombie because it says 1 or more cards. So you need like 50 different instances of being able to exile cards. But, you know, this in combination, it is black. It is a partner, which means you can go get like green and maybe get like a Scavenging Ooze to maybe exile your own cards or return things from your graveyard. That's another thing, obviously. Any sort of persist loop will now also create infinite black zombie creature tokens. So I think it definitely has a lot of potential, but it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And because it has partner, it is super versatile in terms of if you wanted to do a combo-y deck with it, you can get any color combination you need, essentially. Next, we have Court of Plenty. It's a 2 green enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you are the monarch, you may instead put a creature or land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you're going to play this, and then if you manage to not get hit within a full turn cycle, you kind of just get to throw a creature onto the battlefield or also a land. So that's pretty cool, and even if you lose the monarch, you get to still put a land on the battlefield. So pretty good, lets you ramp. I wouldn't say it's overpowered, but yeah, I like it. Next, we have Fallacy. By the way, obviously throwing just something down on the battlefield for 4 mana is insane, but the fact that your opponents can stop it, like any color can just stop it, is nice. Either way, Fallacy, Dignified Medium, Legendary Creature, Human Cleric, Rare. At the beginning of your end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you've sacrificed this turn. So this is this interesting kind of loop where you create, say, 5 1/1s, then on your turn you sack all 5 1/1s for, say, 5 mana to like an altar, and then you get those 5 1/1s back. Now, it is a little bit risky because if someone can destroy Fallacy in between when you sack them and at the end of your turn, you do lose all those tokens, but it's one of those things where it's like you're probably just going to slowly grow this token army. Now, if your opponents kill them on their turn, this only triggers at end step and only does tokens you've sacrificed that turn. So, you know, you can't do it on your opponent's turn, but I do think it has a lot of interesting potential. Next, we have Opeca, Heartless Chronologist. It's a legendary creature, Auger Wizard. Tap, the player whose turn it is currently may end the turn, and it's a 3/4. So this is going to be a commander that's going to like ending the turn. And, you know, we've seen a lot of cards that, or commanders that like when other effects end the turn, because it synergizes with their effect, but this is one that just does it on its own, which almost makes me wish it was a partner, and maybe you could partner with something. But again, we don't want partner to be too overpowered. It is a 3-color commander, blue, black, red, and I think it's definitely interesting. I like the fact that generally you're probably going to use it to end your turn. You can essentially save yourself from any instant speed interaction on your turn, but also if you're working with someone, you can be like, hey, you know, I can help you, and you can just end the turn. So that's pretty fun. Generally, it's going to target your own stuff, but I'm imagining this deck would be full of like acts of treason or weird effects that are going to, by ending the turn, you know, be better. Then we have Blade Griffin prototype. It's an artifact creature Griffin with flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player chooses a non-land permanent that one of your opponents controls and destroy that permanent. So it's kind of interesting. You're dealing damage to your opponent, and then the person, you know, chooses a permanent and then destroys it. So you're in a way destroying a permanent, but you're not the one that's going to get the blame. And I think if Commander wasn't such a social game, this card would be pretty bad. But the fact that, you know, it's like, oh, he's the one who destroyed it, you may get people who are now feuding, even though you're the one who caused the entire issue to start. And I think that is a lot of where the value of this card comes from. Next, we have Leggeth, Auger of the Crossroads, 4 blue legendary creature Sphinx with flying. And if you would look at any number of cards by scrying, instead draw that many cards. So an effect that says scry at the beginning of your turn just says draw an extra card each turn. And honestly, first off, this has a partner, which I find insane. I am definitely going to build a deck with this, probably adding green just so I can ramp a ton, get up to that 6, and then just scry and draw a bunch of cards. It seems like a lot of fun. Either way, next we have Seer, and then I'm assuming they couldn't translate the second part. It's 1 in a blue for a legendary creature owl, flying, and spells your opponents cast that target commanders you control cost 3 more to cast. So it's just going to protect your commanders, and it has partners. So that's kind of a nice little thing. It's like, oh, I have my main, you know, I'm playing mostly green, and I have my green commander that I drafted in this draft. Oh, you know, I have some blue cards. Let me pick up Seer, and it's a cheap commander that, first off, is going to increase the amount of times you cast a commander, which is good for some cards, and then it'll also protect your commander. So pretty awesome. Next we have Meteor Mace. It's a 4 red artifact equipment, uncommon, and it says equip creature gets +2/+2 and has trample, equip 1, and cascade. This one kind of makes me doubt a lot of this, because cascade, are they really going to do cascade in Commander Legends? I mean, they could, but it just seems kind of like a really random mechanic to throw in there. Either way, Tech is Scrap Slicer, is a 5-cost green legendary creature, Human Artificer. It's kind of interesting to see Human Artificer in green. It says when it enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless golem. So you are getting 4 power for 5 mana, which is not great in green. But whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Tech and on each golem you control. The fact that it says each golem is pretty insane. So this is a golem tribal kind of deck. It has partner. I wonder if there's a golem that's a partner. If there is, those two are definitely going to be awesome together. Next we have Rayov, Master Blacksmith, red and a white for a legendary creature, Dwarf Artificer. So it says whenever a creature you control attacks, if it's enchanted or equipped, it gains double strike until end of turn. That's pretty awesome. It's definitely a card that's going to really be not Vorthosy, that is the wrong word, Voltron-y, in the fact that you're going to want to put a bunch of stuff on one big creature, give it double strike, maybe give it trample double strike, death touch. I don't know. Seems fun, doesn't really fix a lot of the issues with red and white, but it's a cool commander nonetheless. Next we have Treasure Seeker, 2 in a blue for a creature, Human Pirate. When it dies, draw a card, and then it has Encore, and you can pay 2 blue and draw a card. So yeah, kind of interesting. It's a common. It's a little complex for a common even, but I think it's cool. But you're paying 3 mana for a 2/2 that then you have to kill to draw a card, and at that point you could have just paid 2 blue to draw 2 cards, but hey, here you can pay 7 mana to draw 2 cards and also have had a 2/2 at one point. Not great. Obviously paying 3 for 2 cards in Commander isn't even that great, so I don't think it's a good card, but I think the Encore mechanic is interesting. Next, we have Elvish Black Seer. It's 1 and a black for a creature elf shaman. When it dies, each opponent discards a card. Surprised it doesn't have a rewind, but interesting. And then Maelstrom Colossus. It's an 8 cost 7/7 with Cascade, and it's a golem. So yeah, looks like Golem Tribal might be a thing in this, and Cascade is going to be one of the mechanics, which is something you really would only see in like a commander. You wouldn't see that in a standard set, so it's kind of nice to see it here. Either way, guys, that's it for Commander Legends spoilers. I want to talk about something really quickly, which is Kamigawa Neon Destiny. So these IP addresses / website domains, whatever, not IP address. What am I talking about? I don't know why I said IP address. These website domains were, filed, and they are for Kamigawa nd.com, which would be Neon Destiny, Kamigawa neondestiny.com, Kamigawa nd.net, and Kamigawa neondestiny.net. Now, technically, anyone could, post, register these. They could be registering them so that Wizards of the Coast can't, but that's just a little too particular and too specific. I really don't think that this is a fake leak. It definitely could be. It could be someone trying to get attention, get clicks, but I think it could be real. And if that's the case, it looks like we're going back to Kamigawa. I would assume it wouldn't be right after Innistrad. Generally, if you notice, they like to go back and forth, although they haven't. I would say between War of the Spark and Zendikar, they like to go new plane, old plane, new plane, old plane. Next year we're going Kaldheim, and then Strixhaven, and then Forgotten Realms. So those are just 3 new things in a row, and then going to Innistrad. So maybe they're going to do 3 new places, 3 old places, maybe do something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it looks like it will be a 2022 set. Either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. It was just a nice little summary of all the leaks and things we've heard about. I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed. See ya.